Mark Leamer, and today we're going to be talking about Malinois genealogy and registration. As I've already noted in my first video, there are FCI dogs and non-FCI dogs. Much of this depends on the country of origin of your puppy, or your puppy's parents, or the adult dog that you've acquired. It also depends, to some degree, on which dog sport the owners or breeders are involved in. Each country has its own gene pool, more or less, and there's some overlap, but not a whole lot. Based on these two factors are your registration options or lack of them. Now here in the States, you'll be able to find out the registration specifics easily and prior to making your purchase. But for those getting a dog from across the ocean, there's oftentimes lots of opportunity for misunderstandings or problems. Oh, I almost forgot. This is another one of my boys. This is Big Tank, or Tanky Boy as he likes to be called. Like Robbie, who you met in video number 1, he is a non-FCI dog. Tank and Robbie are both what we refer to as a cross Mechelse. I had Tank's dad for his entire life. I had Tank's dad's dad from the time he was about 3 years old. He came from Holland. And I had Tank's grandmother. She came from a friend of mine in Tennessee by the name of Dale Wright, one of the first people to breed Malinois in this country. Now before I get into sample registrations and such, I want to talk a little bit about the various names used to describe the breed and what all that means. So let's get started, look at some history first of all, and then go from there. But before I do that, I'm going to put Big Tanky Boy away, back with his friends, and they can watch some TV or something while we go over Malinois genealogy and registration. You stay put, we'll be right back, or at least I will. Let's go, Tanky. Okay, I got Tanky put away. Those guys can watch a movie. We're going to move on. This breed is referred to by 6 names right here. You've heard them all. Malinois, Belgian Malinois, mechelaars, mechelaars, Le Chien de Berger Belge, and a cross mechelaars. They're all basically the same dog. It just depends which country you're talking about, which country they're from, which country they were bred in, what sport the people were involved in, and so forth. The biggest source of information about the Malinois on this planet is at this website, www.bloodlinen.nl. The pedigrees for probably 20,000 dogs are on this website. You can find out everything and anything about your dog's ancestors, and so forth. I've downloaded and printed out 12 pedigrees from that website. 3 for dogs from Germany, 3 for dogs from France, 3 from Belgium, 3 from Holland. They're going to be on the screen on your computer in just a minute, and we're going to talk about them and talk about the dogs that are on there, and so forth. You saw this earlier in the video. These are abbreviations which you'll encounter when you examine pedigrees. These are registration organizations in the various countries. I have them here in the native tongue and then here in English. Your dog may be registered with more than one of these or with none of them. It just depends on where you get it and who you get it from. Here again, bloodlinen.nl. It's just a wealth of information. A good way to stay informed, a good way to find out things, get information, learn. There are many magazines. Here's their Malinois. This is the publication of the German Malinois Club. This is a magazine that's put out. You can buy Hundensport and Sporthunden. It covers a variety of dog sports in Europe, many different breeds. Here's the official publication of the KMPV, the Politiehund. You have to be a member to get that, and unfortunately Americans can't be members anymore, to the best of my knowledge. But anyway, there you have it. We're going to get busy. Let's move on. Okay, first we have Elgos de Chemin de Plain. He was without a doubt one of the most influential and well-known dogs in the history of the breed. He was an LOF registered dog, LOF of course being the abbreviation for Book of Origins, France. Both of his parents were LOF dogs and 3 of his grandparents. Elgos was an FCI dog. Puppies sired by him to an FCI bitch would have been eligible for AKC registration.
Interesting is the fact that despite being a Belgian dog owned by the very famous Luc van Steenbrugge, the majority of his ancestors were French dogs registered with LOF. Okay, next we have Ike de Dupatois, another giant in the history of the breed. Ike was an LOSH/NHSB dog. He would be considered an FCI dog. At one time, Ike had sired more dogs earning a KMPV PH1 certificate than any other dog in history. I don't know if that's still true or not. Ike's ancestors were a mixture in terms of registrations, but were primarily Belgian dogs. Interesting is the fact that he was a product of two litter mates being bred. His mother, Donna, had the nickname De Vliegende Nun, or the Flying Nun. My third and last Belgian dog is Turcados van de Dubator. This was a well-known dog in IPO circles. He was a grandson of Elgos on his father's side. A few generations back in his pedigree, you see many Boscal and de Dupatois dogs, both very famous kennel names in the breed. Almost all of his ancestors were registered with LOSH, the Saint Hubert registry in Belgium. Saint Hubert dogs are FCI dogs. Okay, now we're going to look at our first Dutch dog, Roseanne's Faraday. This dog recently won the KMPV Object Guard Championship. You can watch him on YouTube. He's quite a spectacular dog. If you look at his pedigree, you will see no FCI dogs. That is, no dogs with an LOF or LOSH number, for example. He is a non-FCI dog. Now, does that make him more or less than the previous three dogs we talked about? Absolutely not. It makes him from a different gene pool. He is what you might call typical of a Dutch dog. He's a cross Mechelse herder, that is to say, a dog without registration in one of the organizations that we've talked about, but a dog whose family tree is well known and documented among the Malinois people in Holland. All of the dogs in the first three generations that are titled in KMPV. Next we have Yoshi. This dog is here in the States. He's in Florida. Like Faraday, he is a cross Mechelse herder. He's basically a typical KMPV dog with breeding from a gene pool of KMPV certified dogs from within the borders of Holland. He is, of course, also a non-FCI dog, and he can also be watched on YouTube. Okay, my third and final Dutch dog is also here in the States. In fact, this dog belongs to a friend of mine, Jeff Scott, and is just a few miles from where I'm sitting right now. This dog was imported at about 8 weeks of age and was fully trained here. His father was a KMPV PH1 champion in 2006. Anubis is a cross Mechelse herder, just like the first two Dutch dogs we discussed. You will note that some of his ancestors on his mother's side are unknown. This is not uncommon in the breed, even among FCI dogs. Anubis can be seen on YouTube as well. At about 90 pounds and rock solid, I can tell you this dog is a beast in protection work. If you were to sit down and research beyond the generations shown in these pedigrees, you would find many of the same dogs 5 or 6 generations back. Alright, moving on to France, I have chosen Cheyenne de Loup Moutin, a very famous French ring dog. It would be very unusual to find a French dog that was not an FCI dog. This dog has an LOF-1 BBM number, the same as my French dog Cliff had. Cheyenne has quite a bit of Belgian, de Dupatois behind him, as well as a few unknown ancestors. One of his grandfathers, Vicky de Falberg de Post, was also on my dog Cliff's pedigree, and he was known affectionately in France as Chéri Bibi. All in all, a typical French FCI dog. Okay, next comes one of the most famous Malinois of all time and found on many pedigrees. Othar de la Nollerie came from a very prominent French breeder. He was a French ring champion and is considered a pillar of the breed. He has quite a few French ancestors, but primarily descends from Belgian dogs in the 3rd and 4th generations. An FCI dog for sure. He is a good name to find on your dog's pedigree. The third of my French choices is Carl de Dupatois. A champion in French ring Campagne, he is a son of the legendary Belgian dog Gibibber, another famous dog of Luc van Steenbrugge, the well-known Belgian breeder. An ALSH registered dog, he is a mixture of all registrations: NVBK, ALSH, LOF, and LOSH. On his mother's side is the very well-known and often seen Givetu de Dupatois. Now we come to some German dogs. First up is Brian von Haus-Mecke. This dog is a product of a Danish male bred to a German female, both IPO3 dogs. In the next generation you have a French dog, a Danish, a German, and another French. Behind that is all Belgian and French, and when you get back to those Belgian and French dogs, you'll see many of the same dogs as we've looked at in some of the previous examples. This is an FCI dog. Virtually all the dogs on the pedigree are FCI dogs, and it's very common for German Malinois to be FCI eligible dog. Now next is a bitch, Aisha Airport Hanover. This is a well-known kennel in Germany. She is a Schutzen 3 and is an FCI dog. You will note that on her sire's side you find many familiar French and Belgian dogs when you go back a few generations. This is very common in the German dogs. Also, you will note that much of the genealogy on her mother's side is unknown. This is actually seen in quite a few dogs. It's not uncommon at all, both FCI dogs and non-FCI dogs. Okay, the last dog we'll look at is Jan van Lowenfels. This dog is from the kennel of Peter Engel. Peter Engel is sort of the father of the whole Malinois program in Germany. The mother of my very first Malinois was a Lowenfels bitch. Every dog on this pedigree is an FCI dog, including the very famous and highly regarded Clem vom Rotenfalken. If you note back in the 4th generation, if the dog isn't a German dog of DMC VDH registration, it is a Belgian LOSH dog. So my friends, what have we learned so far other than it can get very confusing? If your Malinois is from Belgium, it could or could not be a registered dog. If your Malinois comes from Holland, it most likely is not a registered dog. If your Malinois comes from France, it is most likely a registered dog. And if your Malinois comes from Germany, it is also most likely a registered dog. In Belgium, you find both NVBK dogs and LOSH dogs. Both are found among ring trainers, and among IPO trainers would primarily be found the Loesch dogs. In Holland, most of the KMPV trained dogs are cross Mechelse herders. Most of the Loesch NHSB dogs are usually with the IPO folks. In France, virtually all of the Malinois, regardless of sport, are LOF dogs. And in Germany, virtually all of the dogs are found with IPO trainers and are DMC VDH registered dogs. Okay, here's a couple examples of documents from my collection of stuff. This is the inside page from my first Malinois Cliffs French registration papers and pedigree. This is the front cover, his SCC pedigree, just to show you what they look like. Then of course I transferred him to the American Kennel Club because he was an FCI dog. This is from my female Asta, who was from Germany. She was also an FCI dog, so she was eligible for UKC. That's a copy of her pedigree registration from Germany. Here is my female Tessa. She was a AKC registered dog, an FCI dog, also registered with UKC. Here's her AKC registration. This is a copy of her father's Untitled from Germany. He was a VDH dog, Falco von Lohenfels. And here's some independent registries where you can register your dog. Several years ago I had an idea for a registry for Malinois in this country who could not be registered with either the AKC or the UKC, but whose lineage could be verified and documented. That registry was the American Mechelse Herder Registry. I worked at it a little bit trying to launch it, but didn't have enough free time or resources. Also, it was a little ahead of its time. Now I think it is time, and I will be getting that off the ground this year. Watch for more information in the near future.
Okay folks, that's about going to do it for Malinois Genealogy and Registration. Hope you got some good information. Hope you learned some things. Hope it was helpful. I hope you enjoyed the video. My next video is going to be entitled Getting a Good Start with Your Malinois Puppy, and I hope you'll watch that, and take care and see you next time. Thanks again.